Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Spectrum Drama, where we take a look at the hottest posts on Spectrum for the week and give our opinions on them. Okay, so before we get started, don't forget that we are still running our giveaway for the Origin G12 rover. So if you want to be in with your chance to win that, all you've got to do is comment on this and every video in the month of August for your chance to win. And that's it, so let's get started. Okay, so first up we've got a post from Uncle, and it's quite a long title. I'll read it all. Unpopular opinion. I didn't back a game, I backed an ambitious vision from someone who has produced creative content that I love for 20 years, and I'm okay with scope creep, failures, restarts, and even total failure as long as he keeps trying. That pretty much says it all. I mean, you can read the post, but essentially, you know, he's played freelancer, and he understood his vision. And essentially what he's saying is that we shouldn't be angry at CIG or Chris Roberts for them trying to push forward this vision that they have. But the problem is when you take so much money for your vision, I mean, he's not a guru. He's not selling us an idea. He is selling us a game, and we all bought that game. So, is what I think of that. Start as we mean to go on.
So you backed the game rather than the overall future vision of everything.
I think that you have to accept that there is going to be a long-term vision for a game, but I backed what was promised to us, which we'll cover off, you'll see shortly in the next posts. But, you know, there was a lot of concepts for this game, and there was a lot of features which made it interesting, it made it appeal, and we still haven't got them. And so I think we are, you know, nearly, 7.5 years in. I think it is now fair to start worrying about this vision. Is it too ambitious?
I think it's completely ambitious. Yeah. Is it too ambitious? That is going to be the question. There's going to be dissertations written on this in like universities for years to come. I think. I think it is very ambitious what they're trying to do. I kind of backed that kind of ambitious vision that he's referring to here. But yeah, like you, I also backed for the game because I wanted to play it. I don't see why you have to back for one and not the other. I mean, essentially they're the same thing, are they not?
Yeah, as far as I can see.
It's not like they're making a game and then making something separate. Well, I suppose they technically are. I suppose you could class Squadron 42 as a separate game, and then the PU as the ambitious vision. Yeah. I guess you could go that way with it. But still, I kind of backed for both. So, I'm all in for both of them. I don't see why. I guess there would be some people that would back just for the PU. I guess. Yeah. I know there are some people in our Discord which aren't really too fussed about Squadron 42. So, okay, I'll let him go with that one. But I don't know. He's kind of trying to wash his hands of all the various dramas that have gone in the community over the last few months. Some kind of assumption that people are speaking for him, where they are not. So, I kind of understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I kind of find these sorts of posts a bit useless. Yeah.
Entirely useless. I mean, I agree with certain things, like, I'm okay with scope creep and failures, and so are we. I mean, because there's got to be some failures to get to where you're going. You're not just going to hit every nail on the head. No. And scope creep is inevitable in almost everything unless you plan it so perfectly, which, let's face it, you can't plan something like this so ambitious perfectly. You're always going to have some creep. Restarts, no, not acceptable. And total failure, 100% not acceptable unless they're doing refunds, because there are people who spent, 40 grand on this game and they didn't do it just for love. They did it because when they get into this game, they want to have built up something that's theirs and they can use. And if all of a sudden you get to a point where they're like, well, we tried, that is not acceptable. And anyone who thinks that's acceptable has more money than sense. The other thing I will point out is what you were just talking about, this just quit expecting your impatience, justified or not, to be mine. No one is, honestly, Uncle. No one is. People aren't speaking for you. People are speaking for themselves. There's just a very big voice for this at the moment. You don't have to feel that you're absorbed into that voice if you disagree. But it also doesn't really need a post saying, well, I'm different to you, because it's unnecessary, mate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I guess the last thing you could really talk about is this this kind of declaration that Chris Roberts has come up with: creative content over the last 20 years. I don't really agree with that. He's come out with like 2 games or something.
Yeah.
It's really not been that many over the 20 years. And I believe Freelancer was actually taken out of his hands because he was feature creeping it so much it was getting behind. So it's questionable whether you could even pin that on him as well. Essentially, I think the first initial idea for the Freelancer game was basically what Star Citizen will be, but at the time they just weren't anywhere near the technology level to be able to do it.
No.
So they kind of just took it off him and simplified it a bit, and it was a good game. There's no denying it. I did have it. It was actually really good. But yeah, coming out with that Chris Roberts has come out with 20 years of creative content is a bit of a stretch in my book.
So it's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of like James Cameron, where, he'll do nothing for 10 years because he's just working on an Avatar film, you know what I mean? Or something like that. And then, everyone holds him up like a god because he created something that was amazing. You think, yeah, he did. But also, time, lots and lots of time, and lots of technology. It's like this game. They're waiting for technology to catch up with their ideas. And it's exactly what happened with him and his film. Yeah. And let's face it, Avatar was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It's not the best film that's ever been made.
Not massively original plot-wise.
No, exactly. It's basically been done to death. It's just he did it with better technology. So I think that's kind of what Star Citizen's going to be, because I can foresee little games coming out here and there that have the same concept and really good mechanics, just not as pretty. And that is essentially what this is going to be. It's going to be the Avatar of games, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. So next up, we've got a post from Honeyhands, and it says, why are there so many tier zeros missing? And I know we cover this every sort of 4 months or so.
Yeah, it feels like every 4 months this comes up.
Yeah, you have to, Lo. I mean, because let's face it, why? Why are there still so many tier zeros missing? So again, I'm going to read off a bit of a list. So the ones we've got missing at the minute are salvage, scanning, science, exploration, passenger transport, data running, animal hunting and capture, medical. We've got med beds, but let's face it, they're not really medical currently. Repair and refuel. There's more, but that's kind of the big ones. And of all the ones that we get, we've got cargo, which is important, and we've got mining, which is okay, so my personal opinion is what they need to do is they need to take this list from Honeyhands here and then put some small notes in just saying where they are and why we haven't got them yet. That would please so many people, like literally everyone. It would please the community to go, oh, well, now we know, but here we are.
Yeah,
CIG communication.
I think you've kind of hit it there. It would be really good if we had some kind of explanation of where every one of these currently is in their development. He comes up with a tier 0 scanning is missing in the game. I don't technically agree with that. I believe we have tier 0 scanning.
We do technically, yeah.
Tier 0 scanning, rather. Medical, yeah, I guess you could argue we've kind of got that, like you say, the mid beds and stabby pens. Yeah, I guess you could class that as tier 0, so I'd let that one go. But yeah, all the I mean, some of these you can passenger transport. I mean, that you can do that. You can literally go to a planet, pick up some random players in your ship, and then transport them somewhere else. you can do that. But yeah, all the others,
an NPC do it for you kind of thing.
Yeah, I maybe he's talking about the NPC, kind of, what do you call them? Oh god,
Uber.
Yeah, NPC Uber. You know, the kind of thing that they showed at CitizenCon, where the Vanguard or Valkyrie came down and picked up the player and took them to a mission location, which we still haven't got in game.
Nope.
Yeah, maybe he's talking about that. In which case, I would agree. Yep, that's missing as well. Mining and cargo that we do have are functional. You know, cargo is functional. You're not really doing much in it. You're flying down to an outpost or whatever. You're moving a slider on a screen and pressing buy, and then you're flying somewhere else and doing the same thing. It's not particularly involved, and there's a hell of a lot of improvement for that. Mining, I think mining is in a pretty good state as a tier 0 goes. I think they've done a really good job on it, and I don't think that they need to touch it for a good year, in my opinion. There was a recent post came up about the new roadmap, and one of the arguments they put forward was that do we leave mining as it is and all the miners get upset, or do we try and iterate on mining, make them happy, and everyone else gets upset that we're not doing other stuff? Now, I don't really see the argument there. Mining is, in my opinion, in a pretty good place where it is for tier 0. You could quite easily just leave that and put something new into the game. I'm pretty sure the miners will be fairly happy with what they've got for now, as we try and get something else into the game, because like the list here, there's a lot missing.
That's the thing. I mean, like you said, the mining is, I think it is perfectly acceptable. I mean, anytime I've been mining, hand mining, or in a ship, I think that the mechanic that they've got now, it's one of the best mechanics I've seen for mining. It's quite fun. There's an element of risk, and you can be crap at it, which makes it a good skill. You know what I mean? You can actually be rubbish at mining, whereas in other games you just have to point something at something and you mine. So I like the fact that there is a skill level to it. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there's other things which I think, I know it's hard to say we think they're more important than what. Do you know what I mean? And how do we define what's important? It's not really our job to. But as a player and as a backer, you kind of have these certain ideas in your head of what you want this game to look like, what you want your game to look like, and that sounds selfish, but we all think it. What bugs me is when, and again, I say it all the time, never read the comments, but I did read some of the comments on here, because I just wanted to see if this would make a discussion, and it did. For the majority of it, people were discussing things that they liked and wanted, and discussing how far behind they think we are, and stuff like that, which I think is always an interesting conversation. And then you get the odd person who steps in and basically just says, this thread is all the same as the others. It's just an outlet for basically people to come on and moan. And we're like, have you been to Spectrum before? It's basically what it is. But where else do we go to talk about this stuff then? This is what Spectrum was designed for, and I think that you can get some really good, useful conversations out of this. I think the problem is that I don't think that they read these. And so even if you had the most, mind-bendingly awesome suggestions and comments in a post, I don't think that really will get paid attention to by anyone. And so in a way, this place is a cesspool, as we always call it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm losing my will to live in Spectrum, people.
Yeah, I guess to finish up, I kind of agree with the honey hands here. The original plan was to get tier 0 for all the game loops into the game and then improve them. But they seem to be just stuck on mining at the moment, and I really wish they would just drop that for a little bit and do something else. Maybe they are, maybe we're just not aware of it, and hopefully this new roadmap will kind of highlight that. But from the outside, without any kind of communication from CIG, it just looks like they're stuck on mining and not doing anything else.
Yeah, that's the hope, is that this new roadmap will actually kind of give us an overview of what they're doing. Maybe that will fix a lot of these problems, like I said, where they could come on here and just tick off all these things and tell us where they are. Hopefully the roadmap will do that. But if it skirts all these things, if we don't get any kind of definitive, this is what we're working on, and they actually say salvaging, then I think that we're basically just going to be in the same boat. So yeah, come on, a few more tier zeros, just to whet our appetite.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up we've got a post from the Kaz, which is funny, and we won't tell you why. And it says, too many fighters. And I know we've discussed this a million times, but I think it's relevant again now. So we've had the Talon, they've shown us the Talon looks cool, I'm not going to lie. But seriously, please stop with the fighters for a minute. And basically what he's saying is that the ship lineup is oversaturated with fighters. Most players will spend the majority of their time generally in mid-sized ships like freelancers, cutlasses, that kind of thing, for cargo, for all these other things, and it just feels like we've got this massive roster of fighters that are kind of rarely used, really. I mean, do you agree that maybe do you reckon there are too many fighters, or do you think that maybe it's just a case that there's not enough of the other ships? Is that even an argument?
No, I think you're right there. I think it's just because there's a lack of other ships, other profession ships.
Yeah.
There is a shit ton of fighters in the game now. And yes, the Talon looks really cool. And the reason they came out with for developing that was because they wanted to flesh out the Tavaran ship line. Which in theory is great. But why a fighter?
Yeah.
They could have done something else. I'm sure the Tavaran use cargo ships or some kind of mining ship or something. Troop transport. I know we already got that. That's the only one we do have. But yeah. I mean, they could have done something else than a light fighter. I guess it's kind of easier for them. Maybe they wanted to go that way just to appease the combat. I was going to say nutheads, but that's not really the word I was looking for. Yeah, maybe they just wanted to appease the combat pilots some more. But like Kaz said, there's so many fighters. I feel like the combat people are already kind of appeased. Yeah,
I think they're covered, well and truly covered. Yeah. I mean, there's a few people in here who've got some genuine interest in. Slayer has got a comment here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but essentially what he's saying is that we've got the Tavaran, we've got a dropship, and it's expensive, and so it makes sense that they make like a smaller fighter, because it's cheaper and it's got a broader appeal, and that makes sense. 100% agree with you. But what makes sense and what we think the game actually needs are two different things. It definitely makes sense to build a fighter. It's cheap, it's easy, and you can just churn them out.
Yeah.
But what we really need to see is we need to see more multi-crew ships from different manufacturers, and really just kind of some forwards momentum, because I think creating another fighter doesn't feel like this game is going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Whereas the minute you create a new profession ship or something, you could live off that for a year. CIG could literally live off the aura of that ship for a year, and we would leave them alone. So you got to look at it both ways, I think.
Yeah. And they wanted something. They kind of went with this kind of fast, not so much stealthy, but just fast and agile combat ship. It would have been nice to have seen some kind of stealth cargo transport. Something we haven't actually got in the game yet. I think that would have been quite cool.
Yeah. Cool. So next up, we've got a post from Shui. And it says, Stanton system, moons, temperatures, atmospheric pressure, and artistic representation inconsistencies. This is a very long post, people, so I recommend you read it, because I'm probably not going to do it justice by gisting this into, a paragraph, but I'll do my best. So Shuey has basically created a weather chart for all the Stanton bodies. So he's drew his conclusions. There are a lot of things basically that just didn't make sense. Certain temperaures and pressures on planets are consistent, and then some are just wildly inaccurate. To give you some examples, he says some moons are consistent, like Aberdeen, with a temperature that remains almost constant day and night, as you would expect with the greenhouse effect created by such a dense sulfate atmosphere. Very smart words, big smart words. Unfortunately, there are other moons like Walla, which has a totally black sky, or rather no sky, as you would expect without an atmosphere, which is realistic. On the other hand, if there is no atmosphere, the temperature should be the same as in space, i.e. no temperature. But there is a significant variation between day and night. So you can kind of get the idea of what he's saying, is that there's certain moons and large bodies that it's not consistent with the atmosphere as to the temperature on the surface, and so on and so forth. But I suppose really the biggest question is, does it matter?
Yeah. I completely see where he's coming from. Inconsistencies aren't a great thing when you're trying to build this sort of thing, but at the same time, people get stuck in their head about realism in a game, and I think they lose sight of the fact that it is a game. And not everything is going to be hyper realistic like they might expect.
100%. I mean, the people are saying this in the comments, that this is like a uber realism nitpick. And I do agree, but I also, like you said, I do agree with Shuey that, it is good to get these things nailed now if you are going for a bit of realism on the planets, because if you get to 100 planets and then you realize, oh my god, 50% of these, all the atmospheres are just fecked, you're going to have to go back and redo and readjust and all that stuff. It's better to just nail this stuff down now, which makes me wonder, maybe they don't care as much as other people do.
No.
And it is nice now that we've got this suit that kind of gives us our temperatures and all that sort of stuff, and we can see it in our ship and mobiGlas, and we can kind of get a feel for what the temperature is going to be in a place. It does make sense for it to make sense. But yeah, I think that we're probably going to have to take a lot of these with a big pinch of salt, Shuey, because I think they've got other things to worry about at the moment, maybe. Yeah,
I think you're right. I know a few people in Discord which will probably get a bit triggered by the inconsistencies here. Not naming any names, C0. But me personally, I don't care really. It's a game, and if CIG want to bend reality a little bit in their game, then fine, do it. I don't care.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, Shu, what we're saying is we definitely agree, and 100%, if this was like a proper sim, if this was a space sim, then 100% they should nail this stuff. But I think that we're going to have to allow them a big margin of error for these things, because it's a fiction. It's fiction. But good chart, by the way, Shuey.
Very good.
It is very interesting. Yeah, it's really well put together, man, and we do appreciate you.
Yeah, very nicely illustrated.
Okay, so last up, we've got a post from Albator, I think, and it says, now I'm going to try and read this in the style with which it was written. Wow. If you wanted to hype me more, you could not. The impressive stuff they showed in ISC this week is very, very above everything I've ever seen ever. I mean, seeing some small clip of animations that we already saw so many times in their presentations, seeing a guy hold a gun, wow, we are elsewhere. That video really get to hype me again for Squadron 42, and we clearly see that they are really making progress, because it's not like we already saw this stuff before a million times. Thanks. Now I know that Squadron 42 is on the good way, and I love the end. On the good way.
On the good way.
But I tell you what, Right, I got halfway through that actually before I realised it was sarcasm, which is just shows you how tired I am this evening. But I've read that 4 times now, and I love it. I love every word. So Albator, my favourite post of like the month.
Yeah, he's not wrong. When I watched that ISC, and it was talking about last week's ISC. When this Spectrum drama releases, it will be last week's. So it was the one where they showed the motion capture. Squadron 42 motion capture, which, yes, again, we have seen before. Fairly boring stuff, really. I actually put a tweet out that I didn't think it was really appropriate to be chucking that out on a ISC. But, I agree. Wasn't too impressed with that way.
No. I think reusing, given the climate at the moment with their content and how people feel about it, reusing old footage is a no-no, definitely. And if you're going to do a video about Squadron 42, try and make it fresh, because we're waiting for a video on Squadron 42 right now.
Still.
And so then bringing out videos on Squadron 42 and then showing us nothing new but showing us stuff we've seen before is frustrating, and it's a cop-out. It is a cop-out, and I hate the fact that every week now I'm the villain, because I'm just getting really, really annoyed. But it is what it is. It makes me annoyed when I see these cop-outs, and I think, come on now, pull your finger out, give us something new. What is it? If you're not shitting, get off the pot or something. I don't know what the saying is, but yeah, basically start shitting.
Yeah, I can't even really. I think I kind of switched off halfway through because it was so boring. But I don't think they were specifically highlighting Squadron 42 stuff. They were more. I mean, that was in the background. That's what they were showing. But it was more kind of highlighting the team that has to deal with the motion capture, which is what they typically do on a Star Citizen Live. So I don't really understand why it was in ISC. It was just a bit odd to me. But yeah, I don't think they were really rehashing much old footage. I know they showed some actress from Game of Thrones, I think it was. I can't remember. But yeah, it just wasn't really interesting at all. The problem is that they do these sprint reports every 2 weeks, I think it is now, which is great because it gives us a quick fire view of what's going on. But then the weeks that they don't do that feel really bland and boring. But that's just the way they've decided to do this now. I think they need to change a bit. It's really inconsistent. One week we have a really good episode where they show us a bunch of stuff, and then the next week it's just like, is that it? Really?
Yeah, maybe they need to spread it out a bit. I don't know. I do. As everyone knows, I'm not a fan of the recent content that Star Citizen are putting out on their YouTube channel. It's every video that I watch lately. When I used to watch Star Citizen videos on YouTube, it was a thing. It was something I did. I remember when we used to stream, and we'd be like, "Oh, has Inside Star Citizen come out yet?" And we'd be talking about it during our stream, and then we'd be excited to end so we can go and watch it. Whereas now, I spend half the time whilst watching them on Facebook or something with them in the background, because they just don't hold my interest anymore, and it's such a shame, because this game very much does. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about it constantly, because we love this game, but they really need to do something to re-energize, because it's becoming really bland, and it is a shame, because this game is far from bland. It's the fidelity, it's unparalleled. So come on, get some of that, get some hype, get something into your videos that we can be excited for, and let's look to the future. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That is all the posts for this week. We hope you liked them. We hope you found them informative or amusing. And if you did like them, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Star Citizen content. And don't forget to get into that comment section for 2 reasons. 1, because you could win yourself that awesome Origin G12 rover, and 2, because we like to hear from you. It's always good to get your opinions on these topics, to just hear what the community is saying outside of Spectrum. Always nice. Not that YouTube's much better for its comments, but we trust you guys more. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Yes, don't forget to catch our streams on a Thursday. So we're always streaming Star Citizen on a Thursday. We do try to stream on a Tuesday. Occasionally life gets in the way, but yeah, we will try to stream some stuff on Tuesdays as well. And if you haven't already, sign up to our Discord, because we do occasionally do giveaways in our Discord. We've also, we've got Star Citizen channels in there, so if you want to play with us on a stream, you're welcome. So there's lots of perks, so come on over. But I think that is pretty much it. So thanks everyone very, very much for watching, and we will see you again next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.